Hi there. So as promised, I'm talking today about my port, or which is also called a Portacath, which is a special kind of IV that's implanted under the skin, and it stays in sometimes for years, and it's used for administering mostly of chemo drugs and also maybe IV hydration if required. So my Portacath is installed on my right side, just on my right chest, so just underneath my right collarbone. It's right here. And so I'm going to talk about the insertion and the healing process, and then the ongoing maintenance, and then what happens long term. So first of all, the insertion process was done at the hospital by a surgeon under local anesthesia. So my whole chest area was obviously covered, and then only this part open, and I had to turn my head completely to the left. I was laying on a bed, on a surgical bed, and it was painful when the surgeon inserted the needle for the local freezing. So the whole area was freeze. It was a burning sensation when the needle was inserted to administer the freezing. But then everything was frozen and I didn't feel anything. I kind of felt a tugging. So you can look online the details of what a Portacath looks like and how it works with the tube that goes up here into this vein here and down. So you can see graphs and everything online. I'm not going to cover that here. I'm covering my experience with a port. So then the maintenance, first I want to talk about the healing process. So it took at least 2 weeks for me to heal from they just make a small incision like this, but that incision and the whole area was painful, I have to say, for the first 2 weeks. And then after about 6 weeks, obviously, your little wound is completely healed. And during that time, you take care of it like any other cut. You have to keep it dry, you have to keep it clean, you have to keep it covered. I just kept it covered. And then for the scarring here on my chest, on this little cut, I use an oil. I use a vitamin E oil, which I will link in the description below. And it really helps minimize the scarring. It's a wonderful oil. It's from Palmer's. Okay, and this video is not sponsored. I'm just sharing my product that I like to use. Alright, so then the ongoing maintenance. So every 2 weeks when I get my chemo at the hospital, I sit there for 3 hours. They access the port. They call it accessing the port. They put a needle like this just press it into the port. It's not painful for me at all. Some people like to put ice on to let it be a little bit numb before the needle goes in, but I didn't feel that I needed that. I haven't needed that so far. And the nurses in the chemo suite are very skilled with ports. It's quite interesting that some nurses who work in the rest of the hospital are not familiar with ports, and they're not familiar with how they work. So one time I had some trainee nurses who watched my port needle being removed by a skilled nurse, and they were very interested. They took notes, and I was very thankful that I could make a little contribution to their learning. It made me feel good that they felt I was a good enough patient to share that. And so then finally, I also want to share how I care for my port after my needle is removed. So I take a bottle of fluorouracil home that's connected to my port and stays in for 3 days, as I mentioned in another video. So after those 3 days, a nurse comes and she removes the needle, and then she covers it. So it's very important that you keep it covered and completely watertight if you're going to take a shower for at least 24 hours. That's what I do. I don't want any infection in this port. That could be really bad. So I keep it covered. What I use is Tegaderm. It's a kind of a film that's sticky. It's a sticky film that sticks to your skin and completely covers and completely keeps it watertight. You can find Tegaderm online. You can buy it at Amazon. I bought myself a little box of Tegaderm on Amazon. Once again, this video is not sponsored. I'm not promoting any products. I'm just sharing what I use. So that's the maintenance of the port. I keep it very dry and clean, especially after the removal of the needle at any point. Also, longer term, a port has to stay in for years sometimes because the doctors want to make sure that you are never going to need chemo again before they will remove the port. So let it stay in. It's fine. You can swim with it. Obviously, after those first 24 hours after the needle was removed, you can swim with it. Everything. It doesn't really bother me a lot. And then the port needs to be flushed. It's called flushing. So saline solution needs to be flushed into it. And also it needs to get a medication that stops blood clotting. And that's injected also at the same time. And then your port is good to go for another month. That's when your port is not being used. So even if you are not on chemo anymore, be aware that your port needs to be flushed every month and make sure your doctor makes sure about that. So that's the ins and outs of a port. It's not that bad, honestly. Stay safe, stay blessed, and have a wonderful day.